touched the ceiling and wreaths on every door and window. I secretly believed one of my Victorian ancestors had added our bay window to frame their Christmas tree. Yesterday, Patrick, the new man in my life, and I had donned our blaze orange. Hunting season was over and his land was posted, but you never knew. Cut my tree in his woods and then stood it in the Christmas tree stand Mama and Graham had used before me. Sharing the holiday with a special man was one change I welcomed. Other changes were harder to accept. I remembered the excitement and anticipation of early Christmas mornings in a flannel nightgown, nibbling ribbon candy before breakfast, while Graham made blueberry pancakes in the kitchen. Now Graham was married and living down the street in the rectory with Reverend Tom. They'd invited me to spend Christmas morning with them, but they were finding new ways to celebrate together. Most of their plans didn't involve me. They were part of his ministerial duties and were shared with the rest of his church family. Graham was taking their first Christmas as a married couple in stride. I wasn't. But I was trying. Today I'd invited my friends from Graham's, now my, Mainely Needlepoint business, to a tree trimming party. I hoped new traditions would keep me from missing old ones. When I was 17, hating Maine and all it stood for, and hating Mama for disappearing when I was 10, leaving me to deal with rumors and pity, I never could have imagined someday my life would be like this. After 10 years of working for a private investigator in Phoenix, learning to handle a gun and follow and photo, I'd come home. Mama's body had been found, and I'd found her killer. I'd finally answered the questions I'd lived with for 17 years. Tonight I was surrounded by friends. Patrick West, the guy who wasn't perfect, but who made me smile. Sarah Byrne, who'd moved to Maine from Australia, had a rocky few months recently, but had become my closest friend. Dave Percy, who taught high school biology and whose poison garden intrigued me. Captain Obe and his wife Anna, who'd had a difficult summer, but were now ready to ring in a new year. Ruth Hopkins, who did needlepoint when her arthritis allowed and wrote books when it didn't. Katie Tiddicombe and Dr. Gus, parents of one of my high school friends. Clem Walker, a high school friend who lived in Portland and worked for Channel 7, but was now home for the holidays with her family. And, of course, Graham and Reverend Tom. And Trixie. As the tree began to shake, I realized I'd been lost in the past and hadn't seen her for a few minutes. I reached through the wide branches and caught her, one small black kitten, on her way to the top. She jumped from my arms and skittered to her favorite hiding spot behind the couch. As I climbed down from the ladder, Patrick's arm went around me. "Penny for your thoughts. You look as though you left us for a while." "I'm here," I said, smiling into his eyes, very happy to be right here, right now. I stood on my toes and kissed his cheek. Who needed a kissing ball or mistletoe when I had Patrick? He looked around the room, took a deep breath, and announced, "This is as good a time as any for me to invite all of you to Aurora for a dinner party Christmas Eve." Aurora was Patrick's mother's estate. She was an actress, making a movie in Scotland. "Skye will be back for Christmas?" I asked. "She thought she'd have to work through Christmas, but they've had weather delays and script problems. Last night she called to tell me they decided to close the set for the holidays. She's coming here with some of the others working on the film." "Really?" Clem asked. "Anyone famous?" Clem was the only one of us who'd never met Patrick's mother, who'd bought Aurora as a retreat, far from the pressures of Hollywood. We'd all made it an unwritten rule that Skye should have the privacy she valued. Patrick looked at Clem. He'd remembered my old friend was also part of the media. By issuing a general invitation to his mother's party, he'd included her. "Paul Carmichael is coming, and an actress I don't know, Blaise Buchanan. And Thomas and Marie O'Day, the screenwriters, will be here reworking the end of the script with Marv Mason, who's directing." "Wow," Clem breathed. "I'm a real..."